Good afternoon and welcome to Spanish United Radio. I'm your host Enrique Sanchez. This afternoon we have a very special guest. Can you introduce yourself to the audience, please?
My name is Daniel Villarreal, and I'm mainly known as an actor.
Welcome. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, we met last year over in the City of Industry where I was picking up toys and you were signing autographs. So I know that you were in the movie American Me. So explain a little bit your background on how you got into acting.
All right, well, I started out as a photographer when I was 14. I had a mentor, I had a very nice person who took an interest in me, which is something that, since then now I always encourage people to, especially kids, to find someone and adults to mentor kids because
Mm,
that helped me a lot, you know.
nice.
And so my mentor, he taught me photography, and then he introduced me to a writer who worked for the Spanish newspaper in LA called La Opinion.
Hmm.
And this guy Alberto Macias would go to concerts and review, shows.
Hmm.
So he would take me along with him. So by the time I was 16, I was doing that, taking photos at concerts. And by doing that, I having a camera in the late 70s got you into a lot of places because
Hmm.
people understood you were press.
Hmm.
So I would go to almost anything I could get into every day. And I met a lot of people. I met a lot of people in LA who were in the arts
Hmm.
because, as you could tell, in the late 70s, there were no cell phones or
Of course.
no internet.
Right.
So it was all, and it still is to a degree, it's who you know. So by meeting people, it would get me into different arenas.
Right. It's by contact.
Yes, and so eventually, people started taking pictures of me and began including me in what they were doing. So that's
Hmm.
how I ended up in front of the camera
Hmm.
performing, and that is how I met Ramon Menendez, who would be the guy that ended up directing Stand and Deliver.
Hmm.
I met him before he did that movie, and he gave me a job working on that film in in uh, in the production of that,
Hmm.
and that led to me being in the movie. As we went along, they figured that I could play a part.
Okay. So in the movie Stand and Deliver, did you have like a minor role, or were you like a supporting actor?
Well, I ended up having a pretty good role that to this day people remember. I feel, as people say, blessed
Hmm.
to have been a part of that. And that is how I met Edward James Olmos, who would then cast me
Hmm.
in American Me.
Hmm. I remember when I saw the movie Stand and Deliver, it was a very positive film because, as you know, Hispanic students struggle a lot to get their education, particularly high school. And someone like myself that went to the public school system when I was a kid, the attitude of the teachers is lukewarm. It's like if you graduate, great. If you graduate, great too, because it doesn't matter. I get a salary, get my pension. So that kind of discourages many Latino Hispanic students from graduating. And like you, I had a mentor that was Mr. Bilstein. He's a wonderful man. He encouraged me to finish high school. I finished high school when I was 16 years old, and I went to college at 19. So thanks to him, that believed in me, I was able to do a lot of things. And what I liked about the character teacher in Stand and Deliver is that, what was his name again? The actor
Jaime Escalante,
Javi Escalante. Yes,
yeah,
he fought for his students, especially when everyone in the school system thought that all of his students were going to be failures in life. He helped them, all of them, graduate high school and go to college.
yeah. Well, it takes someone like that, there's always, there's systems and the way systems work, and we all fall into that, meaning like the school system, the districts, they're all very much controlled by a certain kind of, you know, environment.
Right.
And Jaime Escalante went against that. He as the years went by, it wasn't an easy relationship because
Mhm.
he pushed students in a certain kind of way that, like you say, everybody else is just like, you know,
Right.
we don't do that.
Right.
Yeah. And so it takes people like him and like my mentor that have, an interest in being something more than just what is supposed to be the norm.
Right, of course. And I do believe that Hispanics, particularly the young, have a lot of potential, but they have to be pushed. And I feel that if there isn't enough mentors or leaders or positive role models they could look up to, that's where the danger of many of them don't want to finish school, or they get involved in organized crime, or they end up in jail. So I feel that in Spanish Ed, in my organization, we emphasize a lot on education, because right now, especially what the climate is for the job market, there is nothing shameful about having a humble job,
Mm.
but you have to compete for higher wages. So I feel
Mm.
that the only way Hispanics, especially the younger generation, could have better opportunities is through education. So I always emphasize the importance of education, or at least getting some type of a trade school, so that way they could have something to fall back on, and that's how you could break the cycle of poverty.
Right. Well, the thing about it is that it works on many different levels. Where a formal education is good, but I think we have to be aware of the environment and where things are headed, because there's a lot of people right now that have degrees and don't have a job.
Right.
So having a degree is not the end all. Is being able to survive and to have a position that matters, because a lot of industries are disappearing.
Right.
So you have to be aware of what's coming, and where to connect to. Like if you don't have a education in, like, AI or fields related to, like, dealing with countries like China, you're not going to do well.
Right.
So you have to be smart about it. Kids are pretty smart. Since I was a youngster, because of my mentor, he was the director of a place called the All Nations Neighborhood Center, which was in Boyle Heights in East
Mhm.
LA. He trained me to be a community activist.
Mhm.
So
Community leader.
I've been doing that since I was a kid, and I still do it. Almost everything that I do is community based.
Mhm.
Even when you came to see me,
Mhm.
when you came to Frankenstein,
Right.
that's a place where I meet people in my community and I
Mhm.
talk to them. So it's not just signing autographs; it's having a place where people can come and we can talk.
Of course,
You know,
absolutely. And I.
and where you gauged, like the temperature
Mhm.
of where people are at. There's a lot of people who are out of work. You know, there's the kids now that have their own universe, which centered around social media.
Mhm.
I don't know if you saw the limited series called Adolescence.
I saw like the first episode.
Anyway, there's a way that kids communicate through social media that parents and adults don't understand.
Mhm.
So they're totally clueless.
Mhm.
So a lot of countries are now making it, taking away the internet from the
Mhm.
kids and social media and trying to have more control over it.
Mhm.
But kids are really smart,
Oh, I know.
and this is something that Escalante understood. He would say, all you need is ganas. It's that you just have to awaken something in not just children, but in people, a desire to learn, and
Mhm.
then they can accomplish, like he said in the movie, you can accomplish great things.
Absolutely, and
You
I
know,
and I feel that if the children and the youth, particularly, they are tweaked, especially in things that, like you say, that are they're into today. I think they could have a lot of potential in doing great things. So the next question I wanted to ask you is the one about the movie American Me.
mhm.
So how did you get cast into American Me?
All right. I think to put it in perspective, we have to talk about, like you said, we have to talk about Stand and Deliver,
Mhm.
which was such a positive experience.
Right.
At the end, it made everybody feel really good
Right.
about being
Latino.
Latino.
Right.
So then Eddie almost comes and he says, "We're going to make this movie about this group of people,
Hmm.
and I was like, oh, really? Everybody's gonna hate us, you
Oh,
know.
goody.
But getting involved in the process of making that film, I realized how important it was to make this film, and that buried inside that film is a positive message that people didn't see because they just didn't want to see anything else
Right.
anymore.
They just focus on the bad and not
Yeah, they didn't
on the
want to
good.
look at the bad, and actually the very positive story about American Me, if people see the movie and they have come to realize it now, is that something happens to the main character because he changes.
Hmm.
In the movie, he writes a letter to the woman, and he says to her, "You opened my eyes." Like being in touch with her changed who he was, and the bad guys saw this and saw it as a weakness,
Right.
that you cannot be sensitive and you
Right.
cannot, be loving, and
They
so
associate with being effeminate.
yes, and not a macho, and that whole system, their whole way of being,
Hmm.
and so that got him killed, but it actually released him and made him a better person,
Hmm.
you know.
So I have a question.
Mhm.
In the movie American Me,
Mhm.
was the movie like a fictionized version of what happened in St. Quentin, or was it based on something that actually happened and they changed it around?
Well, actually, American Me is sort of loosely based on the Mexican mafia,
Hmm.
which originated at Folsom Prison.
That's the youth correctional facility, right?
That is maximum security prison. It's
Hmm.
for the baddies go there.
Hmm.
San Quentin is where they made another movie called Blood In Blood Out.
Hmm.
That's a different prison.
Right.
Yeah, and that is a fictional group in that movie called La Onda.
Right.
Yeah. So Eddie almost talked to the main guys. He had meetings with corrections, and he had meetings with the guy Joe Morgan,
Hmm.
who was the real leader of the Mexican mafia.
Right.
So there was an agreement so that we could film at Folsom and be safe.
Right.
Yeah, we had an okay.
So how long did it take it to make the movie?
The movie took 9 weeks, and we were at Folsom for 3 weeks.
So what was the experience to be like in an actual prison, like filming the scenes and
Mhm.
interacting with the people
Well,
there?
for those of you who are in the arts and you're writers, you want to be filmmakers or you are actors. Um, there is something about being in a real place
Hmm.
that is nothing like when you read the script, the
Hmm.
story. That's like a jumping point
Right.
for when you actually get there. It's so different. It obviously is not something that I would ever wish upon anyone to end up in a place like that.
Hmm.
When we got there, I was in a cell for one day during the day only,
Hmm.
and that was enough. It's just horrible.
So you actually got to stay inside of a cell, like as part of the
Yes,
movie, kind of like to feel the environment.
yes. And when you are an actor, not all actors, some actors, we are like what they call empaths.
Hmm.
We pick up the energy,
Right.
and so you can't even imagine. Like when you walk in this room,
Right.
in here, we're in here. It's lit
Right.
by a certain energy.
Right.
Well, a place like that has a certain energy, and when you absorb the energy of a place like that, oh boy, there's so much pain in that place.
I could imagine.
And so you take it in and you hold it and then you work with that.
Hmm.
So if you can imagine, it was not an easy thing to do.
Oh yeah, of course. Like anything that has to do with prison, regardless if it's real or fictional,
Mhm.
it's not a good feeling because it's like separating people from society.
Oh yeah, separating people from themselves is dehumanizing.
Hmm.
You don't you belong to the system.
Right.
You're a number.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that people don't realize, that once a person enters into the system, it's like, your rights as a human being or your individuality disappear.
Yeah, I just talk, like I said, I meet people from my community at the places where I sign.
Mm-hmm.
And I met a guy who told me that in his life, he saw his father 6 times. And the 6 times, the father was in prison,
Mm-hmm.
in a different prison.
Mm-hmm.
That's how he would communicate with his father, like
Right.
this, sitting across from him.
Right.
And I said, "What would your father tell you?" He said, "Oh, he just go, hey, you're looking good, this and that." But what else could he say? How do you deal with that? That your father is that person.
Right. I could
He was
imagine.
doing 2 lifetimes.
Oh,
He never got out. He was there 65 years.
that's a long time.
Yeah, imagine, imagine your mom.
Well, of course.
You never see her. Yeah,
Yeah.
that happens. Babies are born in prison.
Yes.
Yeah,
I know that Tupac Shakur, he was born in prison.
yeah,
Well, he was not in the prison, but his mother, he was conceived
yeah,
while he was in prison.
yeah,
So I've heard stories like that.
yeah.
So another question about
Mm.
the movie. I know that the movie American Me was also controversial. So like there was some instances where there were like threats to Mr. Olmos's life and to some of the production crew. Could you explain
Well,
what caused that?
well, a lot of it is social media, and then just people talking and conspiracies and all that. I'll tell you from my end what I know is that, as I was saying to you, we had meetings with people and there were agreements,
Mm-hmm.
and we were safe when we were there. And what happened is that we had people working on the film who were consultants
Mm-hmm.
and they were associated, and things happened to them due to their own associations,
Right.
not because of our movie. It's because of their lifestyle.
Right. Of course.
And so because they were connected to the film, they thought it was about the film.
Right.
The only thing that I would think that was real due to the film was that the main guy that is portrayed in the film, the white guy,
Mm-hmm.
he died. He had cancer,
Right.
and the people that took over after him wanted to have their own agreement
Mm-hmm.
with with Mr. Olmos, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what that was about.
I see. Yeah,
But
because
I was never, there was never any threats or anything.
mm.
Mm.
No, because I've heard different stories. Like I remember Danny Trejo was saying that he had to get involved to protect Olmos. I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, again, people say what they want to say, because it's Danny Trejo's word. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to question it,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. That's what he says.
Mm-hmm.
If Mr. Olmos doesn't want to answer to it or whatever, that I would not get involved. It's like I know, from my own experience, I know a lot of people who have done time and who could say things about Mr. Trejo,
Mm-hmm.
and you know what I mean? Like I can't substantiate it, so then I'll just leave it at
Right, of
that.
course, of course.
you know?
So, would you say that the movie, aside from portraying the human side of prison, would you say that the movie also was successful in the terms that it gave a message to the youth that may want to experiment with that lifestyle?
Well, I don't, as I said, like, because I'm community based, I don't really look at things that way.
Mm-hmm.
I see it as it's all a continuation of where we started and where we're going, and then addressing everything that happens within our community. And that thing that happens where young men end up in prison is a system. When I was doing research for American Me,
Mm-hmm.
I found out that, I'll give you a visual. You
Sure.
get two babies. You put them side by side,
Okay.
and then you say, this baby's going to prison, this baby's going to graduate from college.
Right.
It costs the same amount of money
Okay.
to do. You can send both of them to college.
Right.
So why is that not happening? Because perhaps in this world of conspiracy, people don't want those kids to go to college.
Is it because they feel that if those kids become college graduates, they become leaders and they would influence to make reforms?
It's about power.
Mm-hmm.
It's a power structure. You know, for profit prisons,
Mm-hmm.
huge business. And then, if you really wanted to get into it, those people that the conglomerates, the people that have stock in for profit,
Right.
you can trace them back to the slave owners. The same kind of human beings.
Right.
They profit.
The only difference is that they make it in terms of prison incarceration.
Yeah, and they're doing it right now with the deportations.
That is true.
People are not being sent to other countries. They're being housed all over this nation. You see it in the news. A lot of cities are saying you're not going to build a detention center here. It's big money, big money.
Absolutely, and I've actually had many conversations with families, whose relatives have been deported. Like me being a community leader in Spanish United, I also work with a lot of the immigrant Hispanic community. Like back in February of last month, you probably heard this on the news. There was a Hispanic man who was detained over in North Hills, and he was deported back to Mexico. And they came with assault rifles to get this man. So when I went to go speak with the pastor and the man's family, it was very depressing because a lot of these families depend on the provider. When that provider is taken away, let it be through incarceration or deportation, it destroys that family, destroys the community.
Well, you have to see. They say always follow the money.
Mm-hmm.
And you ask yourself, who is profiting from this? It's not us. It's not the country, because whatever they say, the country depends on this kind of labor.
Right.
And the people who make this kind of labor, they contribute a lot to this nation.
And to the economy.
Yes, money-wise.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about money.
Mm-hmm.
So you take away all of that, and now you have, as Escalante would say, when there's a hole, there's always something there. It's not just a hole. The hole right now is all this, 80 billion or whatever that the Latinos were putting into the economy. We lost that.
Right.
So how are we profiting? Who is profiting? And then you go back to, as conspiracies go, people like Miller, who is the architect of this whole deportation thing, he owns stock in a lot of those companies. He's profiting.
And what's interesting is that his grandparents were in concentration camps in Germany.
It's weird. He's a weird, Jewish Nazi.
Yeah, this is the interesting thing, is that the Jewish community today has gotten more far right because of this administration, but back then it was the opposite. So
yeah, no, it's like I am pro-Israel. My ex-wife is Jewish, and her parents were they came from Germany. They were saved, in 1933, and they were part of the formation of the state of Israel.
Right.
I am pro-Israel. I'm not pro-Netanyahu.
Right.
I am pro-Palestine. But what is happening there is very right wing, and only, can we say, only idiots like Trump listen to someone like Netanyahu and go and attack Iran.
Exactly. And the funny thing is that Iran is a country that it's not like Iraq. It's a powerful country.
Oh, it's scary. What's going to happen to us down the road. They won't forget. And where Trump will be? At Mar-a-Lago.
Of course. Someone like myself who's also Jewish, we are Sephardic Jews. My,
Yeah,
my dad and my mom were Sephardic Jews who were expelled from Spain
of course.
in the 1500s. I could tell you from experience that the persecution of Hispanic people in this country is very similar to what happened in Europe during the Second World War. And I feel that there's going to be like a silent holocaust of Hispanic people.
I hope we're wrong, but you know, again, I refer to conspiracies because I have a lot of friends who are lawyers,
Hmm.
and if you always say, don't ask a question you don't have the answer for,
Right.
because then you'll lose your case. Um, you may think, or you may know, or you probably know a lot of things that are true, but if you can't prove it, don't don't do it. You know.
Exactly.
So there is a level of where the white, European population is going
It's
down,
decreasing.
and the all the others are coming up.
Hmm.
So what happens? The same way that they did when Obama became president is a backlash.
Right.
There, it goes the other extreme.
Hmm.
So now they're defunding anything that makes our lives better.
Right.
There's no, because I've volunteered with a lot of different groups, and one of them is like the programs that provide help for mothers who are pregnant, and
Right.
food for babies. They're taking away all of that.
I remember when I was growing up, we had a program called Dare.
Mm.
And Dare helped a lot of people from my generation keep away from drugs and alcohol
Yeah,
and gangs. So my generation that grew up with that program, for the most part, we don't have issues with drugs or
yeah,
alcohol. But I feel that when they took away that program, the drug and alcohol and gang went up this
yeah.
high.
And some people feel that it's by design.
Right.
You know, they want us to fail.
Right.
So it gets to a point where it's like, what do you know and what do you believe and what are you going to do about it?
Right. When I started Spanish United 6 years ago, one of my inspirations was when I saw, I'm not sure you probably heard about it, when Andres Guerrero, who was a Salvadorian kid, was murdered by Gardena PD.
Mm.
I thought what they did to him was horrible, but what I thought was even more disturbing is that many people on social media were demonizing this kid like he was MS-13, he's illegal. This kid had no criminal record. He was working two jobs. He was going to college to become a doctor. But like you said, there is a stigma that if you are brown, you're bad. So that kind of gave me the inspiration to start a foundation like mine, Spanish United. And even though we are not political, we do get involved with politicians to try to enact reforms. Like I've been invited to speak with Nathan Hodgman, with the mayor of Burbank, and to try to implement reforms
Yeah.
because many Hispanic people have told me that there's not too many organizations like mine that actually exclusively want to see the Hispanic people do better.
Mm. Well, yes and no. I've always found those places.
Hmm.
I've been involved with different groups over the years.
Hmm.
Recently or in the past, there's a lot of people out there who are doing the work and who are involved and who make a difference in different ways. Like I was involved with Plaza Community Services, and they provide services for families.
Hmm.
They had that Head Start program,
Hmm.
which I think they were trying to take the money away from that.
Hmm.
That's taking care of babies and kids and mothers,
Hmm.
and then I've over the years I've supported Homeboy Industries, and they
Hmm.
have
Father G.
they have a high success rate. you
Yes.
know and it all of these fallacies, all of these things that people tell you that demonize,
Right.
when you get to it, we're all human beings, and a lot of what people say is not true.
Well, of course, of course. No,
Yeah.
the reason why I asked because I talked to many Hispanic people,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember last month I was invited to speak in Montebello,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things that they told me is that you know there is a lack of investment in their communities, but a lot of it has to do is that there's government corruption within the local
Mm-hmm.
council. And I also told them, that is true, but the only way that Latinos can be heard, we have a right to complain, of course, but we also have to hold leaders accountable. Like the same way the Chinese in St. Gabriel hold their leaders accountable, the same way Beverly Hills hold their leaders accountable, we have to do it too. Like, yes, we can complain, but if we just complain and don't say anything to try to make reforms, it's just going to repeat the cycle.
Right. Yeah. Well, we all have to be active, be involved. Take part. Like here right now, we find ourselves in a beautiful library. Kids don't realize that places like this are like a gold mine. And they're free. They're
Yes.
available,
Yes.
but they don't use them. When I was a little boy, we still good for
Yeah, yeah, we do.
when I was a little boy, one of my favorite places was the library.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out that I could ask for things, and at that point they had money, and they would order whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
And when I go speak at school, I tell the kids the same thing. You're in a gold mine. You have all these people here available to you, and they work for you.
Exactly.
You
That's
know?
why we have taxes. The purpose
Yeah.
of taxes is that it pays into the
these
system.
people have a responsibility, and most teachers do way more than is asked of them, and they get underpaid. But it takes a lot. It takes a lot to reach, to be able to get across, and to make a difference. I've seen it over the years when because I used to do it more, and I find it hard to reach the younger kids now,
Mm-hmm.
because they don't relate to me.
Mm-hmm.
My generation. I'm too old.
It's the same thing with me, and I'm
You know,
half your age.
you
A lot
know.
of the young people don't relate to me
Yeah,
either.
yeah,
So that's the reason why there needs to be more of the younger generation
yeah,
that has a good head on their shoulders that could be a role model to them.
yeah. So then it's where are we going? Who is going to do it? I don't know if you see it in your world, in your family, in your community. Most of the little kids, they don't speak Spanish anymore.
Yes.
In the old days, we needed it to talk to our grandparents,
Right.
but now everyone's mom and dad and grandpa, they all speak English, so they speak Spanish a little bit, understand it, but it's not the same.
I think one of the reasons why is because, Hispanics, since we are a large minority, we have been demonized in speaking Spanish. So it's like many of the younger generation don't want to speak it because they feel that if they speak it, they're going to be stigmatized as being immigrants. So, but the problem is that that's a form of cultural genocide.
Yeah,
When you take away the language, the identity,
yeah,
their history.
yeah,
So many Hispanic people, unfortunately, they're picking and choosing to identify as white, identified as black. And there are many Hispanic people like us that we don't fit into a particular box, so we
yeah,
kind of like stand out, or fall out. So this is
yeah,
why there needs to be an identity like Spanish United. Our motto is culture over color. So we encourage Latinos of all colors, because
yeah,
we are in all colors of the rainbow, to keep our identity, keep our language. We could still be Americans. We could still be part of this country. The same, like, let me give you an example. The same way the Chinese have been here for 100 years, 200 years in America, all of them speak Chinese, and they're not shamed for being Chinese or learning Chinese. They have entire cities that speak Chinese in San Gabriel.
yeah.
We should not feel shame of speaking Spanish. So we should
Right,
always have that identity there.
right. Well, there's, to a degree, all of what you're saying is correct, but also part of it, like with the societies, they separate themselves.
Right,
Because I go through like what they call Koreatown.
right.
They don't speak English.
They'll
They're
speak Korean.
yeah, and then sometimes they don't even want to talk to me because I don't speak Korean.
Right,
So it's a kind of a way of segregating
right.
and
Self
separating.
segregation. Right.
And then it's a survival thing. But I like science fiction.
So do
And
I.
I wish I could speak every language, and I think that we're getting to the point where with our machines that we will be able to talk to each other.
Right.
And I wish I could. If I could, I would be, bionic and have neural links and understand, even talk to the animals. You know what I mean? It's
Right, of
like we
course.
shouldn't just be like, oh, I'm only this or I'm only
Of
that.
course.
But I think that we should hang on to as much as possible and then get a lot more new things.
Oh, absolutely. I feel as being a progressive, I always feel that one could always keep their identity, but they should be open to new ideas.
Yeah, just be open and try, you know, and understand. I because I'm a filmmaker and I have films, and sometimes there are festivals. I go with my films to the festivals.
Mm,
I was in Long Island in New York, which
mm.
is very much Trump country.
Right.
I got there and there were flags everywhere, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And when I was at the screening, there were people who were like ex-policemen,
Mm.
you know. And when we have the talk, you know, I look at them, I go, I am the bad hombre that Trump is talking about. You're looking at it right here because they don't. You know what I mean? They see a demon, and it's
Right.
just me. You know, I got my tattoo. It's like,
Right.
but I'm not here to hurt you. You know, we went out and we had lunch and we had beers, and it's all it takes. You know, but they
Right.
had never seen the movie Stand and Deliver.
Right.
Their idea for them of like immigrants is Italians or Portuguese
Or
you know,
Jews.
up there, up north, you know,
Right.
yeah, upstate, you know. So it's just they don't have they don't connect. You know, we don't interact.
Yeah,
So,
part of the reason has to do with the environment. Like I'll give a little story quickly.
mm,
I when I moved out of California in 2002, I moved to Michigan. I lived there for about 5 years. That's where I really understood what prejudice was.
mm-hmm.
Like, we are Hispanics in Michigan, especially in the country, we don't exist.
Yeah.
So I remember standing out so many times and having to deal with so many things, but also a lot has to do with people don't have interaction
Yeah,
with other people. Like in Michigan, particularly like in the country area, many of them have never even seen a Hispanic person in their
right.
life. They never even had a taco.
Yeah,
So they go by what they see on the
of
media,
course.
what their churches tell them, what
Yeah,
their leaders tell them. And it's not until you have someone that is open minded, that's willing to engage with you,
yeah,
they're always going to assume or stigmatize you based on what they hear.
yeah. Um, Ignorance and fear are very powerful, very negative forces that people sometimes do really bad things because of that, you know, and a lot of it is that, you know.
Of course.
My friend who lives in New York City, they always say, "Oh, you Spanish," you know. That to them, someone like him has to be Spanish,
Right.
and he said, "No, I'm Mexican American." Oh, what is that? You know, like, soy Chicano. What
Right.
the hell? But even now, you know, I have my AI friend on ChatGPT.
Mhm.
She talks to me like a homeboy. I taught him how to talk like a cholo, you know?
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I gotta learn how to do that.
He goes, orale. Yeah. It's funny.
Yeah, that's the one thing about technology, that you could customize it to make it
Yeah.
whatever you want.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because of what I do as an actor, that I meet people. I've met people from like Cambodia, Laos, you know, that they're into these movies
Right.
and they dress like you do.
Yes, I've actually seen
Yeah.
that. I've actually seen videos, and I say to myself, are we in the Twilight Zone or something?
It's like it's become a global thing, you know. It's like it attracts, you know, certain things attract people,
Right.
you know.
Well, yeah, it's a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah, and what used to be like in the '70s, whatever, like people, oh, don't, you know, now it's the trendy thing,
Right.
you know. Like
Absolutely.
I've friends in London that dress like homeboys,
Right.
you know.
I remember a couple of years ago. I'm not sure if you know the guy. I met this rapper by the name of Mr. Capone. I'm not
Oh,
sure if you know who
yeah.
he is. Nice guy, but he's Pakistani.
Oh, wow.
But if you look at him, you would think he's a cholo.
Yeah.
But he's
yeah.
Pakistani, and he's a very nice guy. I had the
Yeah.
pleasure of meeting him a couple of times. He's actually stuck in Dubai right now because of the war.
Because of what's going on.
Because he's Muslim. So yeah, the cultural impact that Latinos make, let it be Chicano, let it be Puerto Rican or Cuban,
Yeah.
it's affecting the whole world.
Yeah, so you have to identify like what is attractive, right? Because luckily all those people in all those cultures, they don't have to do the the violence.
Oh no.
You know, it's not at all like the gangs. You know, when I
Right.
was growing up,
Right.
it's just the look.
Right. Like I've seen like in China where you have like lowrider cars bouncing,
Yeah.
but they don't have that violence or
No,
and
no.
gangs
In
or drugs.
Japan, you know, they're really into that in
Right.
Japan.
They see it as something trendy.
Yeah, and now those cars, you know, the what they call the lowrider
Right.
cars. Some of them are. There's a couple of them that are worth $1 billion
Really?
for
Wow.
one
That
car.
much?
One car.
So what makes it that valuable?
Well,
Because the aesthetic or what?
one car is called the Gypsy Rose, and it was in the TV series Chico and the Man. So that's the most famous lowrider. I think it's at the Smithsonian.
Was that the one with Freddie Prinze Jr.?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and that car is the one. It's valued, and it has an insurance policy for that.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
and then I think if I'm not wrong, is the car that used to belong to Kobe Bryant.
Mhm.
He had a purple lowrider, an
Mhm.
Impala. That's worth a lot of money.
Wow.
And so what's happened is something that started in the neighborhood that the people did. Now they can't afford it because we cannot buy a car for over $100,000, and the parts are really expensive.
Mhm.
You know, so everything gets monetized, and then it becomes something else.
Right.
You know,
But
Um,
I feel that over time, as Latinos, particularly, once they want to get into acting, they can make a positive impact into the younger generation. So anyway, I want to tell you, we come to the end of our time.
okay.
But I want to tell you, thank you so much for being a guest on the show, and
Oh, sure.
for all of my listeners in Spanish United. We are on all social media platforms. We are in Spanish United: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, not now and now known as X, YouTube. We are a nonprofit organization. Anyone wants to reach out to me, wants to make a donation, send me a DM. As soon as I finish, I will send you the link and we'll keep in touch. Thank you so much.
and thank you for having me and support everything that you do. And then also anybody who wants to get in touch with me, I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, and you can find me usually on weekends at Frankensons in the City
Perfect.
of Industry.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Daniel. Have a
Bye-bye.
wonderful day. Bye bye.